some viewers may not be totally familiar with how a covered call option works. So let me give you a quick example using a pair of shoes. What? Let's say that Nike, the shoe company, has a limited release of their Dunk shoes in some specialized colors. So maybe something like this. Now you sneakerheads, and if you're not one, maybe you know one, realize that there's a secondary market for limited release shoes. And as a result, if they are limited release, buying a pair for one cost, you're typically able to resell it in the secondary market for a higher cost. And so that's what I would plan to do with these particular shoes. So for this example, I paid $100 for these shoes. And my plan now is to resell them for $140. But let's say my neighbor finds out that I'm going to resell them and he wants to purchase them from me, but he doesn't have the $140 immediately, and he asks me to wait a month. So I decide that I'm going to wait for him, but I said I need something in return. And so I'm going to give him the option to purchase the shoes from me, but in return for that, for me waiting, I need to collect a fee up front. So I'm going to collect $10 as an option premium fee from my neighbor, and that in return, I'm going to hold off selling the shoes for a month to give him a chance to come up with the money. Now, if at the end of the month, he comes up with the money and he's able to give me the $100 plus the extra $40 that I'm looking to profit from the resale and the additional $10 that I keep as the option premium, I'll sell him the shoes and then I'll walk away with $150. But what happens at the end of the month if he's not able to come up with $140? Well, the option I gave him the right to purchase the shoes, but he's not obligated to purchase them from me. So I reserved them for him for the month, but after the month, that option that I gave him expires. And so now if he's not able to come up with the money, that initial $10 that he paid to me as the option fee, I get to keep as my own. And that's for waiting to sell him the shoes. Now I can go off, sell the shoes for $140, but I can sell it to somebody else. So I'll collect the $140 from somebody else, plus I'll keep the original $10 from my neighbor who wasn't able to come up with the cash. So that's a simple example of how I was able to use options for selling a pair of shoes to my neighbor, and how I collected a fee, that $10, to hold off and reserve those shoes for him until the end of the month or the expiration date. Before I share the replay of the training session, let me just make a quick announcement. I've got a new user community started up for all of us stock option traders that are looking to generate a regular income. Be sure to check it out at school.com/simpleoptiontrading. I'll leave a link down below in the description. All right, let's get to the trading session. Now I want to jump to a replay of a teaching session I gave where I explained the mechanics of how a covered call option works and how I'm able to generate an income. Let's take a look. Selling covered calls has got to be one of the easiest option trading strategies I know of to make a profit. Now, the prerequisite is you have to own or control 100 shares of stock. But once you get past that, you're on your way to making money. Let's take a look. Here we can see myself on the left and the stock market with buyers on the right hand side. Now, when I'm selling a covered call, I have to own or control 100 shares of a stock. So in this example, we're going to use a fictitious company called ABC. And you can see that I own 100 shares of ABC company stock. Now I'm going to create my covered call option contract using stock ABC, setting a strike price of $100 and an expiration date of January 20th of 2023. Now once I have this configured, I'm going to offer this covered call for sale in the market. And any interested buyer will then pursue purchasing this covered call option contract from me. And the way they do that is by offering to pay the premium. So when the buyer pays me the premium payment, I receive that, and they receive the covered call option contract, which gives them the right to execute that option contract if the conditions are met. So let's overlay the shoe scenario on top of this example. The shares of stock represent the actual shoes that I'm selling. The covered call option contract, that's the contract between me and my neighbor, promising that I will sell him the shoes at a certain price. The strike price is the price that I'm asking for. So for the shoes, it was $140. And the expiration date, well, that simply represents the length of the contract between me and my neighbor. So for the shoe example, it was for 1 month. And the $10 that I received, we saw that as the premium payment that the buyer gave to the seller in exchange for the covered call option contract. Now let's take a look at the two different outcomes that can result on the expiration date of this covered call option contract. Now, outcome number one is when my stock shares get assigned to the buyer. And why does this happen? Well, if we take a look at the expiration date, it's when the market price, the current price for those shares, is greater than the strike price. And that's the price listed in the option contract. And if this is the case, this gives the buyer the right to execute that option contract. So now they can exercise that option contract. And what that allows them to do is to take control or ownership of the 100 shares of stock that I had, but in return, I receive the profit from selling those shares now. Additionally, I also keep the premium payment that I received when I initially sold that covered call option contract. Now, the second outcome is where the contract expires, and this occurs on the expiration date when the market price or that current share price finishes below the strike price listed in the option contract. And as a result, that option now is worthless and is no longer valid. And the end result? Well, I get to keep my shares, and I also get to keep the premium payment that I received when I sold the covered call option contract. So that's a very simple description of how covered call options work and how you're able to generate an income. Two different ways. In option number one, the buyer actually executes the option contract and purchases the shares from the seller. And so the seller gets price appreciation. Let's say they purchase the stock at $90 per share and they end up selling them as a part of that option contract for $100 per share, as we saw with the $100 strike price. That means the seller earns $10 per share, plus they get to keep the initial option premium that the buyer paid to the seller. In option number two, the option contract expires worthless, but the seller keeps the premium payment and they get to keep their original shares, meaning they can go about and do this whole process again, selling another covered call. Hey, I'm excited to announce I just created a brand new community for all of us stock option traders. The user community is free to join, and if you join now, you'll become one of the founding members. In the future, founding members will receive special benefits and perks. You can join at school.com/simpleoptiontrading. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Hope to see you there.